Hey, what's up, everybody? So you're looking at a deck restoration. A lot of times when people are looking at getting into a deck restoration, or what in the contracting world sometimes we will call a redeck, is they have an old wooden deck that is starting to rot out, or maybe the floorboards are starting to rot out, or maybe it just looks old and not too attractive. And so you're thinking, hey, why don't I just replace the decking on it and the rails? Totally fine to do, and just kind of freshen my deck up. And so here's some things that I think will be super helpful for you in making that decision if it's the right way to go for you. All right, so let's get into it. So first thing you want to kind of consider if you're thinking about doing a deck restoration is how long do you plan on being in the house? You know, if you're thinking about restoring the deck in using wood, like let's say you have wood decking and you're like, hey, I just want to put new wood deck boards and new rails. That's going to be your cheapest option. I'm a big fan of composite and PVC decking. That stuff lasts forever. The years you're going to get out of that are far outweigh the amount of money I think that you're going to put into maintaining a wood deck. But if you're thinking about going that route of using wood decking and rails to replace the existing and not actually rebuild the structure, that is the most economical way to go. But the thing that I would probably ask yourself is, how long do you plan on being in the house? You know, if you're going to be there for a short time, wood may be a great option for that because you don't want to spend a lot of money on it. If you think you're going to be there for longer than 5 years, like say maybe another 10 years, then I would definitely say look into investing a little bit more money up front into a composite deck or a PVC decking and composite or PVC railing or even aluminum railing, which looks really fantastic. The reason for that is, you know, when you think about how your deck is going to look after you refinish it with wood, a lot of times what I find is that people, they have it done with wood, and when they look at the cost difference on composite, they're like, man, I wish I'd have just spent a little bit more money and got something that looks really amazing that I really enjoy being on. Wood decking does have, you know, its benefits into it in that you can continue to refinish it and stain it and it'll look beautiful as long as you do that properly. But it does come with all of that maintenance of, you know, every couple of years, you know, pressure washing it, possibly even sanding it down so it doesn't have little burrs and splinters on it for your feet. So those are kind of things that you want to think about it. Now, when it comes to redecking with composite, there's a couple things you want to think about as well. Let's say you're going to be there for more than 5 years and you're like, hey, I really love the look of composite. The structure of my deck looks fantastic. I don't feel that I need to tear this thing down and rebuild it. That is a great thing to do to freshen up a deck that just looks old and kind of ugly. But the thing that you really want to consider there is the structure as sound as you think it is. A lot of people will see that their deck is still standing and assume that, hey, this thing's in great shape, so why not just put, you know, take the old wood decking off and put composite decking or PVC decking on there. But if you have had a deck that was built before 2001, all the pressure treating that was done on lumber then had arsenic in it. But that pressure treating, you know, all the decks built in 1990, 1980, some even in as far back as 1970 are still standing. I live here in the Northern Virginia area just outside of DC, and we see decks that are 30, 40 years old that are still standing and rock solid, but it was toxic chemicals used in the pressure treatment. So post 2001, the pressure treatment is not as good. What we're seeing here now in 2024, some 20 years, 15 years, and only 10 years later, is that the pressure treated lumber isn't lasting much more than 10 to 15 years before it starts having breakdown and problems. And that's primarily at and noticeable where the posts for those supports meet the ground. So a real easy way for you to figure out, like, is your structure still sound, is to just go where the posts meet in the dirt, take a screwdriver or pencil and just kind of poke around, scoot some of the dirt back away from the post and see if it feels soft and mushy. If it does, chances are those posts are rotting under the ground. You'd be much better off just tearing the deck down and rebuilding it, especially if you're going to put a composite or PVC material on it, because that material can be quite expensive. And what you don't want to do is spend thousands of dollars of putting that material on a structure that may only last another 5 to 6 years. I would say make sure that when you talk with a contractor, you bring up those concerns and have them do a thorough inspection of the wood to kind of see how far along in the stage of deterioration is that wood at. If your deck is only 5 years old and everything still looks rock solid, it could be a great way to go. If it's more than 10 years old and it's questionable, we almost always advise people to just tear it down and rebuild it, because the cost of the lumber and rebuilding it really isn't the biggest cost of the deck as it is the materials that you're putting in it. The PVC and composite materials can be quite expensive, and sometimes just tearing that deck down and reframing it with newer, updated lumber is the smart way to go. And then kind of speaking back to that issue that we see with pressure treated lumber not lasting as long as it did, pre-2001, there's a lot of products out there now that are really helpful for maintaining longevity to your pressure-treated lumber that you get now. We are a big fan of a product called ROTBLOC. Essentially, it is a rubber membrane that you wrap around the footer posts, support posts to the deck, so that when those are put in the ground, you are making sure that the post isn't getting any ground contact at all. So you're putting a barrier between the post and the soil to help give more longevity to that wood and get hopefully another 10 years out of it. So it's a super awesome product. We use it a lot. They've also in the last 10 to 15 years have come out with joist tapes. And so these are products that you can seal off the wood on top of the joist where the deck boards are being screwed into, so that any penetration into the wood kind of gets like a little rubber seal right around that tip of the screw, so that when it rains, water's not getting through those holes penetrating to the top of the joist and causing deterioration inside those joists prematurely. A lot of great products out there. I would definitely recommend that you talk to your contractor about using ROTBLOC or a joist tape to protect your investment. Now, if that's outside of your budget, sure, you can go without those products, but I would expect that the wood, probably wouldn't last more than 15 years at this point, maybe 20. So when you're thinking about putting an expensive decking on there that is rated for a 25, 30, 40 year product, then, it's best to put a little bit more money into actually protecting the pressure treated lumber that you're using to make sure you get the most life out of it. And so that would be my recommendation to you. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe and check out our next video. We're going to get more into things you should look for before you buy a deck. Also, if you're looking for a quick quote on a deck, check the link below and go to battlefielddex.com and try our new online calculator. It's pretty awesome, and it will help you get a very detailed budget, fairly accurate, depending on where you're at in the country, and really help you know how much you're going to spend on the project. See you there.